Well, I wanted to welcome everybody to our second town hall. These quarterly town halls has been great so far, and I want to thank everybody that's been able to join us. Our main speaker for today is Mayor Byron Brown. He is our 62nd mayor in the city of Buffalo and is serving an unprecedented 5th term. Mayor Brown has been a consistent ally of Realtors, and he plans to discuss neighborhood housing, good cause eviction, and a few of his priorities for that. So with that being said, welcome Mayor Brown.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Joel Housefar for that introduction. It's great to be here with Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors. Those of you who are in person and those of you who are watching on Zoom. I also want to recognize John Leonardi, the CEO of BNAR, and thank John for his friendship over the years. I want to recognize another good friend, Roz Bergen, who is the first Black female president-elect of BNAR. And your government affairs director and VP of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Brenda Alisi, and I go back to my days as a staffer for the Buffalo Common Council. So it's great to see Brenda in this role. And I understand that you traded one person in that capacity for your better half. You know, I want to thank you for inviting me to join you today and share my thoughts on the future of Buffalo's neighborhoods and how we can expand the benefits of a sound strategic plan to improve the quality and affordability of housing to every resident across the city of Buffalo. I think it's important to note that a strong Buffalo is good for the entire region. I also want to recognize, I know I am in the great town of Amherst. I want to recognize Amherst Supervisor Brian Culpa. Supervisor Culpa and I talk a lot about how Buffalo and Amherst can work together. We view a partnership between municipalities in our county as not being competitive, but we think it's critically important for us to collaborate and work together to build a strong region, because our competition is not with each other. Our competition is with other regions across the state and other regions across the country to bring opportunity and investment to the city of Buffalo, to the town of Amherst, and to the town and to our region. So I want to thank Supervisor Culpa for his partnership and understanding that the name of the game to drive our region forward is partnership. Buffalo is enjoying a period of unprecedented growth in its housing market. However, there are some challenges on the horizon. Higher interest rates as a tool to combat inflation is probably chief among them. Additionally, the effects of the pandemic on the housing market, especially renters and landlords who are still awaiting assistance payments, could be another source of instability that we should anticipate having an impact on our market. I am very fortunate to have a great director of real estate who works with us on tackling these challenges in the city of Buffalo. I want to introduce Hope Young Watkins, the city's director of real estate, who is a key advisor on housing issues in the city of Buffalo, and I think one of your former members. So let's give Hope.
She's still a member.
Now, to mitigate these negative impacts will require a deliberate and strategic approach focused on increasing the amount of affordable housing, fostering greater economic growth through the development of higher paying career track employment for Buffalo's underserved residents, and that's something that we are working very aggressively on in the city. During the pandemic, government at all levels, including federal, state, and local, took rapid and drastic actions to prevent thousands of local residents from becoming homeless. Those actions were in response to the acute crisis we were facing and necessary to prevent the effects of the pandemic from spreading to an even larger public health crisis due to the housing insecurity. And we stood up all kinds of programs during that time using federal and state resources to prevent evictions and to prevent foreclosures for mortgage holders and homeowners in our city. Those initiatives were extremely successful, and we are not experiencing some of the same problems and challenges in that area that other parts of the country are, but we have to remain vigilant in that respect. And we know that renters and landlords still require a lot of assistance as it relates to the looming eviction crisis. Now, during the pandemic, we worked very closely with county government. We worked very closely with state and federal government, and certainly want to applaud those levels of government for their partnership to really help us navigate the pandemic and help renters and homeowners navigate the pandemic. As we emerge from COVID-19, it is necessary to adjust our housing and neighborhood development strategies. Blanket moratoriums necessary during the pandemic are not the solution now. As employment continues to rise and wages continue to grow, we must spread opportunity and help people become home buyers and home owners so that their current higher earnings can be transformed into generational wealth. And so one of our goals in the city of Buffalo is to help more people become home owners. And we know that home ownership is one of the greatest ways that Americans build wealth. That's why my administration is allocating millions of dollars to help train residents in areas of advanced manufacturing, the health sciences, and information technology, among other trainings. There are good paying positions in these fields that don't require a college degree, but do need certification beyond a high school education. By helping residents access these trainings, we are putting them on a path toward a more sustainable future and therefore higher rates of home ownership and stable neighborhoods. We're calling it rapid upskilling, and we will be focusing on investing in training programs where residents of the city of Buffalo in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years can go from training to living wage, family sustaining employment. One of those opportunities that I am sure you have heard about is the Northland Workforce Training Center, which is a unique partnership between the state of New York and the city of Buffalo, designed to train about 350 people annually, up to 350 people annually in advanced manufacturing and green technology. We are seeing people graduate from the Workforce Training Center now, making salaries of between $45,000 a year, some over $70,000 a year. So the plan that we have for rapid upskilling and training members of the community is certainly working. Now, while obviously the city is focused on city residents, the Northland Workforce Training Center is available and open to residents across the region. And it's certainly fulfilling the promise and fulfilling the mission that it was designed to fulfill. As we work to improve the economic outlook of residents, we must also expand the amount of affordable housing for them to choose from. As the housing project stemming from the Mohawk Ramp redevelopment in downtown Buffalo, another Douglas Jamal project, and I have spoken publicly about what a godsend Doug Jamal has been, not only for the city of Buffalo, but for the entire region. He has a vision of really helping all of us to transform this region, this city, into something great. He has been an amazing partner. In fact, it's funny, a few months ago, we were at an event and he introduced me as, my middle name is William. He introduced me as Byron J. Brown. And I said, that's great. Douglas Jamal has adopted me. I am now Byron Jamal Brown. And hopefully I have been put into the inheritance. You know, we also received a $10 million grant for the Broadway Fillmore area. It's called the Downtown Revitalization Initiative grant. With that grant, we will be investing in the Broadway market. We'll be investing in the Central Terminal. We'll be investing in the neighborhoods between those areas of our city, creating home ownership and rental opportunities there as well. And you probably are aware of the number of former schools in the city of Buffalo that are being redeveloped into housing. And when those things come online, that will ease our housing crunch in the city of Buffalo and allow our housing market to stabilize and normalize. Also, one thing that we are working very aggressively on in the city is what we call the Knowledge Corridor. And that's Main Street, between Main Street South Campus all the way down to Canal Side, where we think there's a tremendous opportunity to invest in housing of different types along the Main Street corridor. And that is significant because the light rail rapid transit runs along Main Street, and that can be an area where people can commute by transit, by bicycle, by foot, to work, to services. So we will be making major investments along the Main Street corridor. We'll be working with the development community and also working with the real estate community to market the properties that will be developed along Main Street. Now, our housing strategy will employ increasing the number of rental units as well as affordable homes people can buy. It aims to address our unique housing challenges by providing buyers with a diverse set of housing options that residents can take advantage of as they right-size their budgets and plan for their long-term needs. Now, it'll be housing for different income levels, so workforce housing, middle income housing, upper income housing, and people who are at different stages in life that we want to capture in the city of Buffalo. So whether it's first-time home buyers, move-up home buyers, empty nesters, or people who are going into retirement, we want a range of housing options in the city of Buffalo that we will be providing funding for through requests for proposals to build out in our city. This multi-tiered approach is a path toward long-term housing security for residents of every income and a sustainable way of balancing the needs of homeowners, renters, landlords, and developers. as well as realtors. Achieving success in this area will require the cooperation of our court system, more efficient government operations, steady feedback from experts in housing affordability, and the city council approving the millions of dollars in Buffalo's American Rescue Plan spending to invest in affordable housing. So one of our major focuses will be on affordable housing in the city of Buffalo, but we will also work to build out housing of different income levels in the city. We want to make sure that the city of Buffalo is one of the addresses of choice in our region. So with that, I am going to conclude my comments. I know you have a number of questions, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you very much.
One of the issues that I see we face in Buffalo is really every upstate city, every city in the country really faces it. We've got an aging housing stock, some of which should just go away. A lot of it has gone away. I know there's hundreds and hundreds of lots that are now vacant in the city of Buffalo. Yet to put a new house on that property requires building something that really doesn't fit financially with the rest of the market. Yet it's essential that we do that because there's no better place to build a house except where there's a existing infrastructure, which we have in the city. How do you see effective subsidization of that process so that we can get more brand new single family or multifamily, say 2-family houses built in the city soon?
That's a great question, Peter. So since I've been in office, the city had to engage in major clearance activities. We've demolished over 8,000 vacant and salvageable structures since I have been in office. And right now, I think we have over 11,000 vacant lots in the city's inventory. We see, and I'm sure you do as well, values rising in the city of Buffalo. So in neighborhoods in every section of the city, including the east side, values are rising. We see the value of vacant lots rising. The fact that so many of those lots are owned by the city of Buffalo, we can keep the costs down to give developers the opportunity to build housing, which I think the banking community will be able to capture those values because the market is rapidly rising in the city. What we are trying to do is strategically assemble lots in different areas of the city of Buffalo so that we can build new housing, so that it can be done at an affordable level to the development community and sold at an affordable level to the homeowners that will purchase those properties. So I think we are on track to be able to do that. The good news now is that record amounts of money are coming to the city of Buffalo and municipalities across the country to stimulate the economy. So we will use some of the resources that we're getting from the federal government to invest in housing development and converting some of these vacant lots into areas of new housing.
Just as a practical matter, we've designed a house with the developer that is a multi-generational house. It's a townhouse style detached, but there's an in-law apartment, whatever you want to call it, on the lower level, which, as you know, many of these families are multi-generational families. Building a 3-bedroom flat someplace, it's a disaster, frankly, for them and for everybody else if they're renting. We think this is a great opportunity, but the cost to build that, including the lot's going to be somewhere $450,000, something along those lines, because it has to be of a certain quality. I think you don't want to build junk. But in order to make that fit into the market, it's got to be somewhere closer to $200,000 if it's going to be saleable. I mean, do you see how we could interact with the city in some way, shape, or form to work on, not on one-by-one scale, but on major scale so we can substantially change the neighborhood?
So I think through our RFP process and through development, through the partnerships that we have developed with the business community, we can look at options like that. Clearly, many families are going back to multi-generational living because of where our economy is going. You know, it's becoming more and more expensive for families to purchase homes by themselves now. And I know that, you know, growing up as a kid, we lived in a double house. It was multi-generational living. We lived on the first floor and our grandparents lived on the second floor. And a lot of families are going back to that, and not just 2 generations, but as you indicate, 3 generations, where you've got the grandparents, the parents, and the adult children all living in the same space. So those are things that we have to accommodate. We want to be an innovative government. We want to be a creative government. And I think the resources that are coming into the city give us the ability to be innovative and creative and look at options like that. Yes, John.
Mayor, one of the issues that we're facing is the good cause eviction that is running rampant throughout the state. What's your opinion in regards to how it may affect Buffalo, the community, and the overall health of the housing market?
Well, I know that the landlord community is opposed to it. I know that the real estate community is opposed to it. I think it's important for the landlord and real estate community to be more vocal and to be more visible on that issue. The entities that are pushing that concept all across the state of New York. They are very well organized. They are very aggressive, and they're trying to sell that concept across the state because of the potential of this looming eviction crisis. I'm certainly concerned about the potential of people being evicted from their apartments, but we think there are other ways to address that. One way that we are focused on in the city of Buffalo is providing resources to help renters that have fallen behind in large measure because of the pandemic pay their rents, to make sure that landlords are kept whole. At the state level, they've changed the programming so that landlords were not just dependent on renters getting that money and then paying the back rent, but landlords can apply directly themselves. The state is looking to get additional resources from the federal government to continue that program. So I think that's one thing that can help. Also, the city has a goal of developing affordable housing and getting to a level of 40% affordability in the city with safe, quality, affordable housing, and removing from our landscape some of the substandard old housing that is poisoning our children with lead and asbestos and other environmental concerns because the housing is over 100 years old in some cases. So I know it's a concern, but I think it's going to be very important for the real estate community and the landlord community statewide to really aggressively mobilize and put out the messages of why you think that this is bad, not only for business people, but bad for renters as well.
Do you have any questions, Doreen?
No. So I just have a question. So I just actually, some smaller lots. Now about 10, maybe 12 years ago, we tried to bring in container homes. We met with West Side groups and cooperatives, and they were not ready yet to have the container home because it wasn't fitting in with the craftsman style. Or, I mean, some of these houses that we're destroying have gorgeous woodwork and they're beautiful. But that, do you think maybe it's time to revisit something like that? Because we have a bunch of Afghan families that were settling. We just had a whole bunch that came in, and now we have some Ukrainian families that'll be coming this way. And those are really more immediate, and you know, the infrastructure is there. It could be temporary, but though there's a community in Rochester that has done very well with container homes. I didn't know if we were ready to revisit that or yet.
I don't think that the city ever said no to that, the city government proper. We are,
Correct.
we are open to looking at container homes. I think that's another option that could be presented to people in need of housing, looking for different types of housing. So we are absolutely open to container homes. And as you heard from the number of lots that we have in the city, there are certainly places where we could do that in the city and not come into conflict with other housing styles in that immediate area where people would be opposed to container homes. So we're open to it. I know that.
All right, so hope maybe I'll get in touch with you. We'll re-pull the file. I think Christy Nelson was doing when you were with me. So, but I mean, it was a really great, easy.
I hope is a key member of the city's development team. So we have real estate, we have strategic planning, we have economic development, all meeting on a regular basis, looking at these issues, looking at these questions, and trying to be responsive and nimble, you know, giving ourselves the ability to move quickly on these different issues and make decisions.
Thank you.
Yes.
Has there been discussions in the city with the building codes pertaining to tiny houses and smaller square footage, similar to Miriam's point? You know, the Buffalo Rising blog, it can be kind of the people trolling in Western New York and not always the most productive comments, but you know, I've seen in different sources where people say that the city is resistant to having the smaller square footages. And I know that ties in with our building codes. Has there been any discussion looking at that?
No, the city is not resistant to that. In fact, we have changed the building code where you can build houses on a narrower lot size than you could say 10, 15, 20 years ago. So we're not resistant to building smaller houses. I know a number of years ago when I first started as mayor, if a house was demolished on a traditional lot size, you couldn't build a house back on that lot according to the building code of the city. That has been changed, and now you can build a house on an existing lot.
Successfully.
Thank you.
33
Oh,
right? So we just successfully created a program called Immediate Infill, where we're doing a dedication May, I think somewhere around May 15th. That house had been in a lot of trouble. It was a blight to the neighborhood. It got demolished. The immediate infill allows for us to rebuild within 1 year. We work with a housing partner. This one happened to be Habitat for Humanity, sitting in our community. And those community members actually came forth with about $15,000 of their own money to contribute to that house remaining in the same state and look as their neighborhood. However, just quickly on the tiny houses, we have several individuals who approached us. I think there's one gentleman actually completing one of the smaller houses currently in the city and has just come to me to ask for the lot next to him to do a second one. And common council has given him permission if the first is completed to do that. So it is available. And the green code has changed a lot. The revisions, they are up on the city's website, but if you need them, you can also contact them.
Thank you.
yeah, so we're open to your ideas. We're open to your suggestions. We certainly want to partner with the development community, our residents, with our realtors to build the city in a way that beautifies our neighborhoods and creates more flexibility for a lot of different approaches to building strong, solid neighborhoods. So we are very open. We want to be one of the most innovative governments in the nation. So please, if you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you want to partner, we want to partner with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have to go back to the good cause eviction, just to finish up something there. Because this is front and center for us. This isn't about who's coming in. This is about who's already invested. These are private owners of property. First of all, I want to clarify, good cause eviction, there's nothing good about it. So it's the public is kind of deceived by it. These are, and I know you have to be sympathetic to tenants. But when somebody in the private industry, their only investment in private property that they're renting for income does not get rent for over a year and can't get a good cause eviction because of all of these ancillary things. COVID is past, people need to come up with responsibility, but it is not the person who owns the property that's responsible that tenant is in distress. There has to be another option for them. With the property needs to create income, or we're going to have people walking away from these properties because it doesn't make sense. So we are advocacies across New York State for this. We are trying to get everyone's attention that this should not be a difficult process for a private citizen to want their property back. And we understand what we all went through, but to put other people, there are people who haven't seen a rent for 2 years on a property. So, and they still got their commitment to their loan. So we're just really are going to need help in saying that the good cause eviction, when someone is no longer paying rent and has no interest and it's for a free ride, that is good enough.
I understand what you're saying. I certainly understand the concern in the business community. As I'm sure you have seen from looking at the media, it's certainly not something that I am pushing as mayor of the city of Buffalo, but there are advocacy groups that are approaching the city council. The city council in Buffalo has been debating this, has been looking at this, and these quote progressive groups, socialist groups, far left groups are incredibly aggressive in their advocacy. And they are in City Hall every single week with members of the City Council pushing proposals like good cause eviction and many, many others that people are concerned about. And so if opposing views are not heard and not debated, then it becomes challenging when certain views are being aggressively proposed to the city council, and legislative bodies are extremely sensitive to public outreach and public advocacy. As the administrative branch of government, as the executive of the city, I have to look at the big picture. I have to listen to all sides of an issue, and I have experts that work with me in real estate, in law, in planning, that help us comprehensively look at things and try to make sound decisions for the city. So I believe that bad tenants that are abusing people's properties, that can pay the rent and don't pay the rent, they should be able to be evicted. There's no question about that. But we also have bad tenants who have residents in substandard housing and housing where their children are being environmentally poisoned, in housing that they don't fix up. And in some cases, in housing where people are paying more than a mortgage. And if there was some training for those folks, they could actually own their own home. So I think those conditions are oftentimes what legislative bodies look at. They look at the abuse that happens to some of the tenants. They don't necessarily look at the abuse that happens to some of the landlords. And sadly and unfortunately, it goes both ways. And there have to be strategies and interventions that are developed where you can deal with the bad landlord and where you can deal with the bad tenant without doing across the board, one size fits all approaches, because one size does not fit all, as I'm sure you all are well aware.
Anyone else have any questions? In Zoom, does anyone have any questions in the chat?
I have a question regarding the push away from natural gas. Do you have any thoughts on that?
On the what?
On the push away from natural gas?
On the push away from national.
It's the climate environmental study that the state is doing right now, Mayor.
Certainly we know that climate change is a major issue. I think we need to look at different forms of heating our homes, alternative energy uses that are more efficient. I think for the state to study it is not a bad thing. It's what will happen with the study that we have to look at. Some homes right now are not using natural gas at all. And in some cases, of course, many of us still do use natural gas. So I think we have to look at the best mix, the best menu for energy efficiency, not just in our state, but across the nation and across the globe. The UN just put out a climate report that I'm sure you all are familiar with that says our planet is in dire straits. And if we don't do something about climate change and environmental issues, in another 100 years, there might not be a planet Earth. So, these are things that have to be looked at, that have to be studied. Obviously, some people are pushing away from natural gas, as you've indicated, and some people believe that that has to be part of the mix of how we heat our homes.
We don't have any questions, Joe.
I wanted to thank Mayor Brown. Thank you so much for your time. We know how busy your schedule is. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Very good on screen.
Well, again, it was all very valuable insight from Mayor Brown. I wanted to, again, thank him one more time for coming. And as we all know, April is Fair Housing Month. And this month, we are very grateful that the Fair Housing Act was passed on April 11th, 1968. And it was to help celebrate. I'm asking all of you to help us with the Fair Housing Challenge. If you haven't heard of that before, it has two components. There is the Fair Housing Simulation and the bias override. So nationwide, we have 30,000 of 1.4 million members that have completed this challenge. And I really would like for Buffalo to lead the way and just let us know when you complete them. It's a really great program and it helps you realize like we all do have some biases out there and just being aware of them. One other thing is I'm sure all of you know that this year, the Evan Wood Fund is my charity, and we're generating money for the Children's Hospital. So we have a couple events coming up. The first one is on June 2nd. We're going to be doing a VIP reception at 500 Pearl, downtown Buffalo. And the great news is Eric Wood will be there. And we do have some other really exciting guests that are going to be joining us. There's going to be a VIP reception up on the rooftop where it's $250. And then downstairs, we're doing a general event, and that's $50. We're also going to be doing our annual golf tournament we're going to start. And that is on July the 25th, where it's $250 per person, and we're going to be doing a scramble format. So for those of you that don't golf, we are also just having a steak dinner that's available, and that's $50 for that ticket. So keep your eyes out. We do have a lot of really cool things coming. And I'm also really excited to say that we did a deal with Niagara hats, and they generated for us these realtor hats. And they're benefiting 100%. The money is going to the Evan Wood Fund, where they're only $35. You can get it right to the Realty Association. And we're really excited about this. So next up, I'd like to have Margaret stop up and introduce our next guest. Thank you so much.
I want to thank John and the staff, Beanie and Joel, to be able to the mayor here in person in front of us. Very, very incredible meeting. Thank you. But now it's my pleasure to introduce somebody from the National Association of Realtors who's on our Zoom, Lauren. Lauren I'll kill the name. I know I will. Calicelli is a political fundraising director for the National Association of Realtors, NAR as we know it, where Lauren is responsible for NAR's PAC and other political fundraising totaling over $45 million raised at our local levels, our state levels, our national levels of the association. She also spearheads continued development and strengthening our political action committee. They've got a lot on their plate. We've got issues all over, and they are on them. So we're excited about that. But Lauren is originally from Florida, where she spent the first decade of her career as a political professional in the legislative lobbying and campaign finance arenas. Lauren has an undergraduate degree in political science from Florida State University and her master's in political management from George Washington University. It is my honor to introduce Lauren. So go ahead, Lauren, tell us what's going on.
Thank you, Margaret. It's so good to see you virtually, and good morning, everybody. It's nice to be with you all. I have been asked to take a few minutes to talk about all things RPAC, so I will do that and then leave some time at the end. I believe we have time for some Q&A. So hopefully everybody in this room is familiar with RPAC. It's the Realtors Political Action Committee. It's been around since 1969, and so it's over 50 years old. And its sole mission since it's been founded has been to promote the election of pro-realtor candidates across the country. You may or may not know there are over 4,000 corporate and trade association PACs in the United States, but our PAC is the only one that's organized by realtors to promote and protect the tradition of real estate ownership. And also, as you know, we have 1.5 million members right now. And so that's our solicitable class that we can ask to invest in RPAC. And so we just celebrated a 37% participation rate, which is the first time we achieved that high of a level of participation as an association. We're really proud of that. But 37% out of 100%, there's always more people to ask. So it's a good problem to have. Why realtors step up to the PAC? An important point to keep in mind, and I know you've heard this a lot before, but it bears repeating. We aren't focused on the right or the left or the middle of the aisle. We are the realtor party. We are focused on the issues that matter to real estate industry and to consumers. Really every aspect of real estate is affected by decisions made by our elected officials at all three levels of the government. And RPAC helps protect and elect and re-elect candidates who understand the importance of owning, selling, and investing in private property. And these are such important issues that really transcend politics. And so that's what we focus on when we talk about RPAC. We call giving to RPAC investing in RPAC because you're investing in your business and in your industry. And investing in RPAC is kind of like your business insurance. So with 1.5 million members, our potential to make our voices heard at every level of policymaking is tremendous. So to live up to that potential, we need to engage every single member in the political process. $15 is all it takes to become an RPAC investor, but you can continue to step up and give more and become a major investor, which is any member who invests $1,000 or more a year to RPAC. And for investments of $1,000 or more for major investors, that's when NAR's recognition kicks in for our major investors. And then even going up from there for our Hall of Fame, it's a lifetime commitment of $25,000 or more over your lifetime to RPAC. And Margaret, who's just so kind enough to introduce me, she is a $50,000 tier Hall of Fame members. And I'm sure there's many other Hall of Famers in the room today as well. So thank you all for your commitment to RPAC over the years. RPAC is completely voluntary, so you do not have to invest in RPAC at all. But if you decide that you want to invest, you especially want to invest at the major investor level and want to remain in good standing year over year, it is an annual commitment to invest and maintain that good standing. In terms of where the money goes, where your investments go, most state and local associations prefer that you invest directly with them through the association. So with the Buffalo Association or maybe with the New York Association, you all host events throughout the year and you can attend and invest in RPAC there, or you can invest through their websites. There's also an opportunity, if you so choose, to invest directly through NAR. You can do so through our website, which is realtorparty.realtor/RPAC. And if you invest through NAR, we do send a portion of your investment back to the state and local association, and then the state works with the local to decide how you guys share those funds appropriately. The way it works in terms of our split between state, local, and national, each state association decides how they want to raise money and when to send it to national. So for example, the New York Association might choose to continue to split, 70-30, keep 70% in the state and send 30% to national, or in some other way until the federal RPAC disbursements allocation, which is what we need at the national level in order to maintain our effectiveness, is reached. So a state association can also decide to send all of its receipts to national until it has reached goal and then keep the rest for themselves for the year. But however states decide to proceed, they have to do it within the bounds of the laws that they have in their state. But regardless of how states choose to meet their goals, 30% of the funds for major investors must always go to national. So always we need 30% of that major investor investment in order to count towards recognition. So major investors can get the benefits that they have earned for giving at that level. In every election cycle, RPAC contributions are split nearly evenly between Republican and Democratic candidates. But no matter what, 100% of your RPAC investment is used to elect candidates at the local, state, and national levels. It's very important. That is how 100% of your investment is used to really get those champions in office that support realtor issues. And RPAC looks to kind of build our future by investing those hard-earned dollars of yours to help advance realtor interests. Candidates who receive support from RPAC are not selected based on their political party or their ideology, but really solely on their support of real estate issues. And our legislative allies are all members of our realtor party. I've been asked to talk a little bit about some of our advocacy wins. So we're coming off a big year in 2021 for realtor advocacy. And of course, behind all of our wins is RPAC and the Realtor Party. So if anyone asks, what the Realtor Party and what have RPAC done for you lately, here's a couple of examples that I can share with you on that front. So in 2021, our advocacy team, we secured many realtor priorities in the COVID relief legislation, including nearly $50 billion, billion with a B, in rental assistance for struggling tenants and mom and pop housing providers. We also sounded the alarm on the inventory shortage, and we proposed a once in a lifetime generation response. We also supported many elements of the bipartisan infrastructure law, including a historic $65 billion for broadband, which was a great win. And then as Congress last year spent months considering the Build Back Better plan, NAR worked for over a year to educate lawmakers on how some of the initial tax proposals could really devastate the real estate sector. And so when the US House passed the measure, it did not include the most feared taxes and limits on real estate investment, including limits to the 1031 like-kind exchanges. We had a lot of great successes at the state and local levels as well. Through our state and local independent expenditure program, our state and local associations participated in over 200 campaigns in 2021, which was a record for a post-presidential off-year election, which is great. And then through our issues mobilization program, we had multiple states pass significant legislation that addressed the housing affordability crisis. In terms of our community outreach programs, we provided support to more than 260 state and local associations for activities like hosting a fair housing summit or developing an ADA compliant trail, things of that nature. And then for our consumer advocacy grants, we provided over 20 associations with $400,000 that supported campaigns ranging from affordable housing to property tax to wildfire safety. So it's really a broad range of issues there. And then through our consumers calls for action, which I hope all of you take part in when they come your way, our associations mobilized more than 220,000 consumers across the country in support of real estate issues. That was a lot for 2021. So we need to keep up the momentum in 2022. So how are we doing that? Our advocacy team we have already secured many realtor priorities in the $1.5 trillion bipartisan spending bill that was signed into law in March. The bill funds government spending, funds the government through September 30th. And it includes funding for flood insurance, affordable housing, fair housing, broadband, transportation, all those good things that we want to make sure we continue to fund. And then we also continue to defend the priorities that we fought for so hard over the past year. And then we remain vigilant on the Build Back Better plan, and we continue to advocate for community development tools like the 1031 like-kind exchanges and opportunity zones. And we'll keep advancing any policies that bolster commercial markets as well as residential. We're going to be working to improve access to homeownership with solutions to boost the housing supply, provide tax incentives for property ownership, and expanding access to credit. We're committed to dismantling the barriers to fair housing, addressing appraisal bias, ensuring realtors protect housing rights for everyone. And we continue to transform our communities through the Realtor Party advocacy tools that are available at the state and the local levels for all of you. And then, of course, we're focused on electing champions for real estate at all levels of government because this is such an important election year this year. So I hope that covers the high level points on RPAC and what we're doing at NAR on your behalf. I think I left a little bit of time for some questions if anyone has any questions on RPAC.
Peter.
You mentioned, can you hear me all right?
I can.
Good. You mentioned that 100% of the dollars are invested by us in RPAC go to candidates. Then you listed a whole host of lobbying efforts. How are they funded?
So the lobbying efforts are our lobbyists. So our lobby team that is hired and funded by NAR, they are the ones that are going to the Hill and making those heard. But we are also, giving those RPAC dollars to our champions that are on the Hill who are, we're showing that they are in support of our issues.
The lobbying efforts, these various initiatives that you mentioned, a whole bunch of them, how are they funded? Are they funded out of dues? I mean, all the work that's being done are the people that are actually engaged in those from NAR, are they funded by dues or does?
Yeah, so the lobbyists are, they're paid out of the general treasury, which is part of the dues that come from our membership. It doesn't come from RPAC dollars.
So 100% goes to candidates.
That's correct.
So if I donate $1, it's going to go to a campaign.
Yes, it goes to a candidate's, election or re-election effort.
So there are no administrative dollars in the RPAC budget itself?
No, the only administrative is what we use for, our benefits and stuff like that. That's all of our general treasury funds, but the RPAC dollars themselves purely go to candidates.
Any other questions for Lauren? John?
I just want to mention that you stated that in the local, state, local, that you had a lot of wins. One of those wins was the mayor that just spoke before us. We participated in the independent expenditure program and spent a lot of the dues, the monies to help get him reelected. So, we worked with NAR staff in Chicago, Washington, Mike Kelly and his team in Albany, and the vendors out in California. So those are great wins for us. And as you heard the mayor speak, he has a great plan, a vision for the housing in Buffalo and working with the supervisor from the town of Amherst. So it's a great win for our community. So thank you.
John, we were the #1 investor in that campaign, Realtors.
Yeah, there you go. So it's your investment goes a long way, not only locally, but in some cases, we help other candidates that are realtor friendly, home ownership directed to win. So you got to pass that message on. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Lauren.
That's why we got.
Thank you. Any questions for Lauren? When you go, you actually see firsthand that are sent to you. I know some people don't read everything that's sent to us, but when we have champions that are signing on to keep FHA viable, alive, when it was going to be dismissed because one crisis, the knee-jerk reaction is to get rid of FHA VA financing and make it go private. I started in an industry when the quarter bank held a 30-year mortgage, and when they didn't want to lend, they didn't lend. We need all of those things in place. So our champions there, and then our job is to get our champions, our congressmen and our senators in New York to sign on and to move that along when it's there to protect private property rights, because it also helps us do business. So those are the kinds of things. But it's an immense thing when you see the bills that need to go, and we know the champions that are willing to put their name on something and be advocates for us. So that's where our lobbyists are working on those people. And we're going to be there first week in May, Lauren, right? We're going to be
Yeah, I
there.
hope to see you
Right,
all
we have a
there.
meeting set up with our congressmen. So, and it's a sight to see when you see all of the states there at one time. The Capitol has limited how many people can go in now due to the insurrection that happened in January, but they are allowing us in. So we're happy about that. So thank you. Anything else?
Absolutely.
That's it. Thank you, Lauren, for taking this time and joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank
Thanks
you.
for allowing me to be with you guys. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Yeah, thank you to Margaret and to Lauren for doing this. And in the interest of time, we got it just in about an hour. John, any final remarks?
Let's just take a 5-minute break.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.